Okay. Thanks. So I'm Christine, as Zach mentioned. I'm new to Startup TNT, the newest person here, but super excited to be hosting the summit this fall. I was a former investor, so I get to see it from the from underneath, lifting it up, but it's a good process. Some of the folks on this call I know I've already spoken to, so hopefully this will serve as a good time to clarify any questions you have. Um, and yeah. Oh, and Jesse, I see you're in. Maybe I'll pass it off to Jesse just to say hello, and then
Everybody.
Zach will get started on slides.
Sorry, yeah, didn't mean to cut you off there. But yeah, excited to be here, Christine. Jumping right in. Yeah, this is always a lot of fun. I helped put together the Life Science Summit back in January, February, March, and it was a great experience. And we got Christine on the team, and she's been fantastic putting this all together. So yeah, we're ready and willing to answer any questions you might have. So feel free to post questions in the chat throughout today's presentation. If you've got any, and we'll either answer them directly in the chat or we'll get them on stage, so to speak, and answer them for everybody to hear. And I think basically the first slide is yours, Zach. So I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks. Well, the welcomes are kind of done. We are officially live streaming this now, so people can review it after the fact. And let me give you a little history on Startup TNT. Okay, so TNT stands for Thursday Night Tradition. We started off with a happy hour way back in 2019. It's week 278. I just had to check the number right before this. And we've been focused on one simple philosophy to live life in the startup community since 2019: have fun, make friends, build companies, and importantly, invest in companies. So we bring people together every single week. That's our Thursday night tradition. And we bring investors and entrepreneurs together a few times a year to invest in startups and, importantly, catalyze more investment from their own startup community. So a lot of our summits are regionally focused on cities and regions, but this is a sector-focused community summit on life sciences. And a couple of things to keep in mind, I think, are really special and unique about the process that we do here. The investors pre-commit money up front without knowing who they're going to invest in. And so it's part training and onboarding for new investors, but also a big time belief in investing in great local deals. And the investors don't know each other. The companies don't know each other. They're all technically strangers when they start. And so it's not a system where the referral gets you in the door. It's a system where meritocracy wins and the investors choose a great company to invest in. And one stat that I kind of love, I actually don't have the precise number, but each investor pre-commits $5,000. But the entrepreneurs seem to have a way of convincing them to up their commitments, because if you look at the total dollar we've invested, which is now $15 million, it's at least double or maybe even triple those pre-commitment dollars. So here's the sample you can see on the screen of a selection of the companies we've invested in over the last 12 months. We've now invested $15 million into over 100 companies. And we do it with great partners. So our friends from API here today, and I'm actually going to hand it to Jesse to chat about all the partners and then give API a chance to introduce themselves as well. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of great partners and sponsors that make this possible. I have to obviously highlight API. They're the reason the Life Science Summit exists at all. I believe Zach and Andrew were chatting at a summit finale or a happy hour, and we're like, "Why are we doing this for Life Sci?" And Andrew was like, "Yeah, let's do it," and made it happen. And his team here today will be talking a little bit more about that awesome organization in just a minute. Of course, we've got our core funding partners in PrairieScan and Alberta Innovates. They've been fantastic, giving us the core funding. The work we do is very much in line with economic development, and that's the reason we're supported by those great organizations. And then, of course, you might recognize a number of the logos down below. Osler, our BFF legal sponsor, our best friend sponsor in MNP in the accounting space. If you're looking for banking or debt financing, you got BDC and RBCX there. And then we've got some great community supporters in W21C, Vills, Thin Air Labs, Bio Alberta, and USEED, the fund, USEED Startup Fund, which is one of our great co-investment partners as well. So yeah, if any of these folks are of interest to you, they do all kinds of great work with startups or invest in startups. And that's why we put them on here. So these are the types of people that we recommend you work with. So take a look at them. And with that, I will pass it over to Tessa, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you betcha. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey everyone, my name is Tessa. I'm the Director of Engagement and Brand at API. So I'm responsible for all of our marketing, communications, and audience engagement initiatives. So myself and Daniel, who's also on the call, are who are representing our team today. And I'll just quickly pass it over to Daniel so he can introduce himself.
Thanks, Tessa. Good morning, everybody. As Tessa mentioned, my name is Daniel. I'm strategist of events and engagement here with API. This is my first time seeing the Life Sciences Summit, which I'm very excited to learn about more, and just excited to be involved and support where needed. So back to Tessa.
Thanks, Daniel. And yeah, it's really nice to meet everyone today. Whether or not you've met us before, we'll give you a little bit of an overview of who we are and what we do. So on the next slide, API, we're Alberta's largest not-for-profit life sciences organization and one of the largest in Canada. And we empower commercial development of life sciences products by providing capacity for companies to commercially develop their IP within Alberta and Canada instead of having to bring it elsewhere. So we have a few different locations. We're headquartered in downtown Edmonton, but we also have a life sciences campus at the Edmonton Research Park, which consists of the Biotechnology Business Development Center, or the BBDC, which is a 72,000 square foot incubator. And we're also currently constructing what's called the Critical Medicines Production Center, which is part of the Canadian Critical Drug Initiative. And so that's going to be a drug manufacturing facility in the Edmonton Research Park. Then we also have some space down in Calgary out of the Life Sciences Innovation Hub. So we're Alberta-wide, but we also support companies throughout Canada. And we do that in a few different ways on the next slide, just at a high level. So we support companies and innovators. We do have fee-for-service support. So we have a team of scientific professionals, regulatory affairs professionals, business development professionals that help companies kind of reach that next step in their cycle, their research and development cycle. But then we also offer programs to create paths to commercial success. So we do have some free programs like our Life Sciences Venture Coaching Program, and then also supporting programs like this one. Then we also support and empower postdoctoral fellows, students, and trainees in the life sciences. So on our last slide here, to kind of cap it off, we launched in 2018, and since then we've been able to successfully support more than 50 companies, and with a network of over 100 experts and advisors, and creating a lot of value for life sciences companies with partners like Startup TNT. So really happy to be back this fall for another Life Sciences Investment Summit. I'll pass it back over to TNT.
All right, thank you, Tessa. Yeah, it really has been a pretty awesome collaboration. API brings the life sciences expertise and know-how, and we bring all the angel investors together, and it makes for a really awesome experience for everybody. So it's been great doing this, and looking forward to another one. So Christine, we hand it off to you now to chat a little bit about the team.
Yes, who we are at Startup TNT. So we have our headquarters in Edmonton, where our fabulous ops people make all of this happen. But really, just like the Life Sciences Summit, we are spread across Western Canada. So as you probably read, this summit is running from BC through to Manitoba, with both companies and investors representing that space. But myself, I'm based in Edmonton. My colleague Adrian is down in Calgary. We have a lead in Saskatchewan, which is where Jesse is also based. Will in BC. Let's see, Neil's also based in Calgary, and then our Edmonton folks here. But really, what I wanted to point out was that if you see the city that you live in and somebody's name above it, you can talk to me, but you can go talk to that person in person at a live event on a Thursday night, because we host them every Thursday. So for any life science questions, please direct them to me. You'll have my contact information by the end of this. And but yeah, we're all open. We're all open to chat with you folks. Anyways, next slide, please. Okay. the big one, the why. Why should you come here? Well, you're already in the info session, so that's like step one. But I think if you're a company that is just opening up your first raise, this is a great place to get experience talking to the investors and really deeply connecting with the community to hone your value proposition. We offer some very, I don't know, some nuts and bolts core bits that are really important to making that raise successful. So we'll show you how to build a data room and manage your due diligence through our process. So we've got a template for a data room. Throughout this, you'll receive feedback from our investors and from the qualified partners and experts such as API. And generally, it's going to increase your visibility in the startup community. Yeah. So next slide, please. Are you a fit? So I've actually had conversations with a few folks here already on this topic. It's really interesting how LifeSci came about because of API, but I would say because we have so much rich R&D capacity and depth in Western Canada. I think that's reflected in our eligibility criteria. But essentially, you have to be able to participate in the 8-week due diligence process, which will be outlined through these slides. We will have a virtual pitch on Thursday, October 10th at lunchtime. And then we'll require companies to be in person, somebody from your company, in person for the summit finale, which will be based in Edmonton at Edmonton Unlimited on November 21st. So the winning deal will raise around 100 or 150K from the TNT syndicate and combined with the TNT VC fund. To qualify, you need to be pre-Series A, but we don't mind if you're already at revenue or not at revenue. I think that's common in the life science sector that you do a lot of work before you get to that money-making space. As mentioned, you do need to be in Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, or Manitoba. And then the tricky part. So sector specifically, we talk about life sci broadly, but you do need to be a company that's on a regulatory journey. So what do I mean by regulatory journey? Well, some companies are a bit in the gray, you know, it's in the future. For those ones, I would say you probably are a better fit for our ongoing Summit 10. However, if your regulatory journey for your company is, I'd say, within the next 18 months, and it's a realistic business plan, then you probably fit within this. You don't have to be a hardware company or a medical device. You can be a service, such as or software as a medical device. We do expect that most applicants are going to be either a therapeutic or vaccine, a diagnostic, a device, or vet and animal applications. And just one more point on here. Sorry, it's a longer slide. The filters that I think are the most important are that regulatory journey. But most of all, we want to ensure that the companies and the investors are matched. So to really dig into all the complexities of your companies, our investors are generally going to have some expertise in life sci. So we don't want to have to compare that to a construction company. But yeah, we're doing our best. If you think you're on the cusp or you're in a gray area, I'll encourage you to just reach out to me and see if you are a perfect fit. But yeah, generally our filter is trying to match the companies with the investors. Sorry, next slide. And Jesse.
Yeah, so we've got some key dates mentioned already with our pitch nights, but here's sort of the timeline and how the summit will play out over the couple of months here. So obviously we're past the application opens, but bear in mind the application close date there is September 18th. That is a pretty hard date. So if you do have an extenuating circumstance that leads to it, please let us know. We could perhaps try to give you some extra time, but ideally everybody gets their in by September 18th. As mentioned, the TNT pitch night for LifeSci is virtual. We have companies coming in from across Western Canada, so we don't want to make everybody try to come all together for that night, but the finale later on is in person. The initial selection of companies will happen in that between the 18th and the 10th, and then the investors are going to whittle it down after the 10th to a smaller pool where we'll get the data rooms and we'll dig in deeper. As you mentioned, or as you can see there, sorry, on the slide, as we go through, there is more intensive due diligence to get further and further into the process. And then when we get down to the finale stage, that's when we get into the deal term negotiations and really lock in that final deal before the finale night. And then after that is when we pull together the money and hopefully get you funded before Christmas. That's our goal. But bear in mind, the more complicated your deal is, the more negotiation you want to do and push back on things, the more the lawyers get involved and stuff, the longer it can take. As also mentioned there's some entrepreneur education that happens throughout the process. We'll talk about that in just a minute on a later slide. So that's kind of the timeline. So make sure you mark your calendars for those dates. And I highly recommend you mark your calendar for those dates, regardless of whether or not you expect to get through each stage to the next.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Also, some good questions coming in the chat. Maybe I'll just repeat them quickly for everybody since I answered them in the chat. If you don't have any regulatory journey, you might be a better fit for one of our general summits. But I encourage you to kind of check in with us. Christine's kind of your point person. She's like really dialed in on how this works. Jesse and I are just here to support. And the other question was about like, how early are you to be too early? Honestly, we've had a lot of companies that were quite early in their journeys do really well at TNT. And we pride ourselves in investing in companies early in their journey. So if you're a pre-seed company and this is your first funding round, or you're still in kind of like testing out your idea phase, that's not too early, just so you know. Okay, let's talk about the pitch events. So October 10th is pitch night. The goal of these pitch nights is to bring the community together to support and showcase all the life sciences companies. We know that capital is but one thing that the companies need. And so the point of the pitch night is to bring the community together, rally them, how they can support companies. We've had companies meet employees through the pitch night. We've had companies find new business partners for the pitch night. One company once told me that someone from Europe reached out to them after the pitch night and it helped them design an entire new product line. So these are the types of outcomes we're hoping for from the pitch night, not just an opportunity for the investors to look at the companies, but for the entire community to look at the summit companies. And then the finale pitch night is going to be in person here in Edmonton. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying a couple of different things out here, which maybe we'll talk to a little bit more in the next slide, where we're actually going to inform the companies ahead of time which one of them is the winner and which ones are getting side deals. And then the goal of the pitch night is to rally more momentum for the deals and bring additional capital attraction to them and also, again, support them different ways through our partners like API and others. Okay, again, that is in person in Edmonton. So let's talk about the decision-making process, because we're trying a few new things out here based on our experience to streamline the process and make for a better experience for both the entrepreneurs and the investors. So if you're talking to companies that have gone through this in the past or going through our other summits, there's a few differences here. And the first and the big one is that to select the companies, we're going to use a smaller group of investors, basically a pre-screening committee that's going to review the applicants. And by scoring the applications and chatting with the companies that are the best fit for the process, they're going to select about 10 or so, up to 12 maximum companies to pitch the pitch night on October 10th. And all of these companies are also going to have the chance to meet with our investors. One exciting addition here, to give a shout out to our friends at API, is that while the TNT investors are going to look at the companies from the investor perspective, API's team is also going to weigh in on the scientific feasibility, technical feasibility, and regulatory process for the companies, so that going into the pitch night, the investors all have sort of an understanding of where the companies stand from both a business and a scientific perspective. All the companies in the pitch night will be invited to build and share a data room with the investors, and we'll have a set of meeting blocks designated for the week following pitch night, where they get to meet with the investors. And then on October 16th, one week after pitch night, the investors will select the companies to move forward in more intensive due diligence. We kind of expect this to be kind of in the range of 8 to 10 companies. This is kind of based on past experience, pairing the investors with the companies that they're most interested in and are most likely to get an investment. So it's going to be probably in that 8 to 10 range, most likely. On October 30th, we're going to select the top 5 using our scoring form, where basically the investors, based on all the companies that are in the running, will basically rank order their companies from first choice to 5th choice, or actually up to 10th choice. All those just rank order all the companies that are in the running from first to last in terms of investment preference. This will then winnow the field down to about, we'll call it approximately a top 5. If anybody watched our summit last year, we actually had 6 companies in the finals. And so we're being a little bit lenient in terms of how many companies come to the finale, because we know that what makes the biggest difference is that the investors, and for the best experience, the investors are actually genuinely interested in the deals. So it'd be approximately 5, might be like in the 4 to 6 range, depending on how things shake out. And at this stage, there's some additional due diligence happening. Things like negotiating the deal terms, maybe some background checks. Sometimes, if possible, investors will actually do a site visit. Sometimes that has to be done virtually, since we're going to be a bit of a scattered team across Western Canada. But these are, I think Jesse's going to chat more about what to expect during due diligence. But these are the types of things to expect. And then finally choosing the winner from the top 5, which is actually going to happen 1 week prior to the finale on November 13th. And that is also a rank order system where the investors rank their investment choices, and the top company becomes the winner. And at this point, the investors also look at, do they want to invest additional money and set up some side deals with the companies. Our track record has been averaging about 3 deals per summit. And so I know that we're going to have a lot of really interesting companies in this one, and hope to stay on that average as well for this upcoming summit. So with that, I will hand it off to Jesse to chat about what to expect during due diligence.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different things happening through our due diligence process, and it gets more intensive as you move through it. So initially, we have the coffee meetings. The pre-screening committee may reach out and just grab a quick phone call with you. As we call it, coffee meetings, but it can be phone calls, it can be over Zoom, it can be in person, if it makes sense. And then additionally, once we get down into sort of the meat of the summit with our 12 pitch night companies, they'll also have opportunity to meet with our investors. Additionally, the investors meet every Wednesday for a conference meeting where they talk about all of the companies. They come up with questions. There's often follow-up emails that go out to the startups after that, being like, oh, some other investors asked about this. We need to find out the answer. Throughout the process, our investors are going to be, wanting to check with the references that you give us, but also references that we might know ourselves within the industry. And we're going to reach out to them and get their insights into the technology, into the sector that you're developing that technology for. Once we get into sort of the core, the middle process after that pitch night, we get into the data rooms. What is a data room? Well, it is very simply an online cloud drive with all of your documents, your legal, your accounting, your business plans, all of that is in there. We provide a checklist that is prioritized. So make sure you focus on the items that are highest priority. We'll talk about a little bit more when we get to the kickoff and get into the summit itself. But that's the data rooms is a really important part of telling your stories. So if you want to learn more about that, there are some resources, which we'll talk about in a minute, that are on our website. Of course, we have to get into setting up a deal. We are an investment summit, not just a pitch competition, as we mentioned. So it's all about getting a deal done, and we have to set up a deal structure. There is an education session on that, which we'll talk about in a second. that helps you figure that out. And of course, if there's an opportunity, we love to check out your technology. That demo IP can kind of happen at any point in the process. If you can do it virtually, we do it then. If there's an opportunity for some investors that are in your local community, if you happen to be in Vancouver, we have some Vancouver folks, maybe they'll go and they'll check it out and report back to the rest of us on what they found by going to your lab or your facility to check out your technology. It's always best to try to get in there and get your hands dirty and see what's actually going on. So yeah, a lot of fun. As mentioned, there's some different education sessions that happen throughout the process. So we have the kickoff on September 26th, where we can talk a little bit about preparing for those first meetings with investors. As well, we do peer-to-peer pitch practice. That's a couple days before our pitch night on the 8th in the morning. So for those that make it into the process, it's really, really a lot of fun. I think Zach, Christine, and I, maybe even Tessa will be there to have some fun and do some of that pitch practice. As I mentioned, we get into the deal terms. We'll do that alongside our Summit X friends. So all the companies will come in there because at the end of the day, the deal structures are pretty much all the same, regardless of the type of company you are. And then for those companies that make it to the finale stage, we want to help you raise all of the money for your company, not just from us, but from everybody that we know. So we do speed dating with our venture capital friends, and we do matchmaking based on thesis fit. So you know that the investors that you're talking to are going to be interested in investing in your company. All right. And I'll wrap it all up. But one last important slide here. We will be sharing these slides after the fact, so you can grab these links and click on them if you need to. And a lot of this is in the orientation package as well, or you can find it on our website. If you go to extras under resources on the right-hand side there, there's all kinds of great resources. So yeah, check out our YouTube page. Watch some of the past pitches if you want to get some understanding of what a great pitch looks like, especially those finale pitches. We did a great pitch boot camp with Dave Diptong and John Leipoth back for our great Prairie Pitch Marathon. And there's all kinds of sessions on due diligence, how to set up your data room. That's the DD checklist there. And of course, we have a YouTube playlist with a number of resources from all kinds of sessions from our partners and sponsors over the past few years. And with that, I will pass it back to Zach to talk about investment structure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jesse. So let's just chat mechanically. How do we actually structure these investments? Well, really our goal with this is to syndicate the angels, syndicate their relatively small checks into a big check for the company. And so the goal here is that as a company, you get the value of a network of investors, but the simplicity of only having one investment, one check going into your company, a nice clean cap table. And so keep in mind, if you have, say, 20 investors, each committing $5,000 up front to the winner, that's $100,000. Our VC fund co-invests with all the winning deals, $50,000. We generally see a minimum of $150,000 going to our winners. Investors do have the opportunity to increase their commitment if they'd like to. So winning deals sometimes can range as high as $200,000-$300,000 up to the largest ones of over $500,000. But typically they're in that kind of $150,000 to $250,000 range. And so mechanically, we set up a limited partnership, which is similar to a model you would see for a private equity fund or a VC fund, but we have tracking units where the unit holder, being the investor, has their unit tracking to the specific investment. So really what this means for you is you're getting one single check from us. And so the terms that you negotiate with the group are the terms that they vote on, and the terms they commit to. You don't have to negotiate terms with each investor. Is one line in your cap table. I do want to emphasize one thing here, which is investors make a pre-commitment, but typically we see about a doubling of that pre-commitment over the course of the summit, where investors can either top up the commitment to the winner if they really like that company, or they can do additional deals. And so we use the same model for the other deals where we use a limited partnership. However, the venture capital fund doesn't do any of the side deals. It's cash constrained or capital constrained. It just has enough budget to do the winners. And side deals can be on the smaller side of like 20,000 up to as large as a few $100,000 for bigger deals that we've done. And that's a little bit dependent on the interest level from the investors and the minimum commitment from the founders. So mechanically, that's how we do it. Any questions about that? Share them in the chat and we can answer them. And I'm going to give one little shout out to our VC fund, just so everybody's aware. It is a $3 million fund, and it writes a $50,000 check into each of the winning deals from the summit, from all of our summits, in fact. It is syndicated through the same check. So again, if you're the winning deal, you receive just the one investment. The angels and the VC fund are all syndicated together for you. But the nice thing about the fund is we pair each winning deal with a venture partner or two that work with the companies to support them on their journey towards raising their next round of funding. And the fund sets aside about half of its capital to do follow-on investments into the top performing companies in the portfolio. We expect there to be a total of about 30 companies in the VC fund portfolio. And with that, I think I'll hand it back now to Christine to chat about founder etiquette.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. So you're going to talk to a lot of people about the same topic over and over, but that is part of this fun journey. And realistically, you want the founder to be a champion, or you want the investors that you're talking to be a champion to the other investors that are in the summit. So please be receptive to any feedback that you receive from them. You might have strong opinions, they might have strong opinions, but you know, if you receive new information, changing your mind. It's great to come out to the events because you can, if you're in that region, you might meet one of the investors that's in your pool, or attend some of the online events, make friends. Like really, this 8 weeks is a chance to build a relationship, and that is where the strongest support for companies comes from. It's relationships with investors. And while you're in a competition sort of with each other, I think there's as much learning that you can get from your fellow companies as from the investors. So please assist and encourage your fellow entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. We are going to send emails. There will be weekly updates that go out. This will provide you some access to the entrepreneur resource base. We'll have it posted in several areas, but you know, those templates that we talked about in the DD checklist. But I'll emphasize again that if it's possible in your region, coming to the TNT happy hours to talk face-to-face to some of the investors is probably going to make that experience even better for you as a founder. So yeah, please read your emails though. I'm done with that. And then next slide, please. Oh, this is about the happy hour. Here we go. I kept emphasizing it. I'm like, right. So it does happen every Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. We have lots of folks out in Edmonton. Again, our headquarters is here, but we also have folks in Calgary, Saskatoon, Regina, and Vancouver. And if you need more info, you can connect with me to connect you to somebody local in your region, or you can connect with them directly. So the point of them was, you know, the thesis for Startup TNT. It's have fun, make friends, build companies. But the fun part is there. There's lots of entrepreneurs. There's lots of professionals. It's a good place to share your knowledge, to talk about the journey of your company, to meet new people. Again, Zach referenced, you know, people find new folks that work at their companies at some of these events. It's great socializing, and really the strength is in the folks that we have here. Yeah, in the community. Anyways, that's the end. Oh, hang on. I'm going to say this is a picture back from 2019. Startup TNT has been going for a while. Okay. If you have any questions, I am your go-to person for Life Sci. But if you want to connect with the lead in your area, take a look at these faces. Mike's in Saskatchewan, Adrian's in Calgary, and Will Johnson's in BC. Okay. I think that's it. And now we can move on to answer any questions that you folks have. Or maybe we're done early.
Hey, Christine, can you hear me okay? It's Dean LaRiviere. How are you?
Oh, good. Hey, Dean.
Hey, okay, I'm on my iPad. Hopefully you're hearing me audio-wise okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
Great, thanks very much. Thanks for this, by the way. This is great. This is very helpful in us in terms of assessing the opportunity for our company. I have a bunch of questions, but I won't go crazy here. I'll just ask a couple, if you don't mind.
For sure.
In the event the company is successful and fortunate enough to have that opportunity with the team there, if the due diligence process doesn't work out, is there any cost or risk to the applicants in that scenario at all? Is it really a matter of the time and commitment we've made to try and come through? Obviously, you go in with the intention of hoping there's something good, but if things don't work out, how does that play?
There's no cost to apply. We don't charge you at any point in time during this process. I think the benefit or the cost to you, as you pointed out, really is your time. But if you don't make it through, hopefully the benefit weighs out, because we will do our best to connect you to the appropriate folks within the ecosystem with our community sponsors. And again, API, our technical expertise friends, are going to be looking through the companies and acting as that filter. So if you don't want any feedback, you don't need to have it, but I posted in the chat that we're available for a follow-up if you don't make it onto the next round. So
Right on. Okay, good. So I know that's not necessarily a positive question out of the gate, but it's more just understanding the process around that question. And maybe just a follow-up on that. What is typically the engagement of the angel investors once they've chosen to invest and get involved in the company? How involved do they get? Are some more involved than others? What's that focus look like with a group of people? How does that play out for everybody?
That is a good question. And briefly, I will say it depends on the investor, but I might pass it off to Zach or Jesse, just because you've seen a lot more of these summits, but it really varies.
So yeah, it can vary quite a bit, but keep in mind that with, like, let's say somewhere between 20 and 40 investors participating, you as a founder don't want to have to deal with all those people wanting to get really active with you, right? So we definitely avoid that situation. Most of the investors are going to be passive, and they just check in on like your quarterly updates and see how things are going. And we generally assign like 1 or 2 people to be the point person for the group. If you're part of if you're the winning deal and you're part of the VC fund, this is formally set up through our venture partner program, where you get 1 or 2 venture partners that work directly with you. But even if you're not in that, we usually will informally have like 1 or 2 investors that are maybe leading the DD or build a relationship with the founder, be kind of that point person for the group, and share updates and work with the founder. Aside from that, we have had founders build relationships with investors where they form like mentorship or even like formal contractual relationships, or even they join the team. But we leave that as a little bit more like negotiated in the community naturally.
Okay.
Jesse, anything to add to that, or that's?
Yeah, Dean, does that answer your question? Or I think that's very.
That's great.
Sorry,
Christine. Yeah, it sounds like the due diligence process is where a lot of this would kind of come out in terms of how and who we'd work with, and including things like negotiating equity and how that all plays out. All those things come out in that process then.
Yeah, and we'll add, like, we didn't really talk about this, but since it's coming up a little bit, like the equity negotiation can range from a company as like, hey, you're the first investment group we're talking to. This is what we're thinking about. Let's negotiate deal terms. Can we arrive at a term that makes sense for the founder and the investors? To, on the other end, hey, my deal's half filled. This is kind of a take it or leave it. I have a lead investor. This is the terms. I can't really negotiate them. And so keep in mind that both options happen, and it just kind of depends where you're at in your raise and what the situation is.
For sure. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. Just one last thing, Christine, because I think you told me to ask this question when we were emailing back and forth. I attached a file and I realized I had made an error, and I can't seem to reattach the file or delete the one I put in. So it's a real tactical question. Maybe others have that problem. Is there a way you want me to approach that, or us to approach that?
Are you talking about in your application?
Yeah, the application portal. I'd attached a file in there and then realized I'd forgotten one piece of information, and I couldn't delete and reattach the new one. So tactical.
Yeah.
I'll step in and say that you can edit any part of your application with that link that went to your email,
Okay,
except for the pitch deck. So if you want to update your pitch deck, just send an email to your friends. I'll drop the email in the chat.
great. Thanks very much. Pardon all the questions. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Winnie.
Love the questions. Ask more questions.
Ask
All
more.
good.
Other companies have these questions too.
Yes. No apologies for asking questions. We like questions.
I have a question around sort of due diligence, but just because you mentioned IP/demo, what are there expectations about where you're at with IP filing, or if you could speak to that a little bit? No?
I'll take a stab at this and then Jesse or Zach come in. But no, we have companies that are, as it was answered earlier in the chat, like very early stage. And this is their first foray, but maybe there's so much promise that our investors are intrigued. So they might not have filed IP yet. We also have companies that are really, really progressed and they just haven't done a raise yet. So we deal with the whole gamut, but I think some of this process through DD, through discussing with your investors, that's the chance for a bit more structure to come around it. But no, you're at where you're at, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Anything
Maybe
else?
I'll just actually start a follow-up here on the part around, you're at where you're at, and that often folks have to come through our process more than once to really get a feel for raising capital and all the different aspects of the process and different documents and things that you need to prepare in order to be properly set up to actually get the investment. So we highly encourage, like, even if you feel like maybe you're not, entirely ready, like it's the same way, with being an entrepreneur. It's like sometimes you just got to jump in and just do it. And so by participating in our program, getting that feedback, getting to actually interact with real investors and get to hear real questions, so that we are able to give you that feedback and help you improve for the future, right? You're not really going to know how to play the game until you play it at least once. On maybe the question of around IP, and maybe we'll preempt some of the other questions that people are popping up, or maybe around confidentiality, because I'm sure people think about that as well. All of our investors sign a confidentiality agreement to participate in our summits. We do not sign NDAs as a general rule, and except in extreme circumstances. So those circumstances are very nuanced, but as much as possible, we try to avoid that. It adds additional administrative burden. It's a lot to deal with. And we are looking at, so many different companies. It's hard for us to manage NDAs across all of them. That said, if you do have, significant IP that you are, worried about potentially, being exposed, don't put it in your pitch deck. Like, that's going to be made public on the pitch nights. And if there is a need for us to dive in deeper into it in the due diligence process in some way, shape, or form, we can have that conversation. Yeah, and we highly encourage you to, find an IP lawyer, or I believe API does some work around IP as well. So yeah, highly recommend you reach out and talk to them. Zach, I think you had a
Well, one thing to note, because I know that in life sciences, we often have companies that are very IP heavy, as you can imagine, as I'm sure you all are. And honestly, want to protect their IP. So I just want to make one comment here about maybe some unique situations to life sciences. So one way, I think a great way to think about it that my co-founder, Tim, always says is that this entire process of due diligence is really a trust building exercise between the founders and the investors. So as you go through the process, you get to know each other better and better, and you build trust, and then you can share more information. And to the goal, as Jesse said, is to be able to share as much information as possible without having to sign any type of formal contract. However, I realize that if you have intellectual property that has maybe not been patented yet, or is like a real trade secret that you really want to keep close to your chest, you probably want to keep that out of your data room for the most part. Or maybe what we have had in the past is we have a select couple of individual investors that are leading it, sign an NDA with the company so that they can take a closer look and a deeper dive at the intellectual property, which is kind of works the best for all the parties involved. Usually that would only happen like kind of as you get through a little bit deeper due diligence though.
Awesome. Thanks, all.
if someone, Kara.
A question from
I do
Kara.
have a question. Hi. So I just have a little more like a little more information about the regulatory side of things. So just, I mean, very briefly, we're a biotech. We make a device for part of the vaccine development process. And the founder is someone at a university, an academic. And so I know that there are regulatory requirements. I, have some kind of fluffy idea of what they are, but I'm wondering if during this program, if that's something that we could get help with, because I think that yeah, that's a big worry that I have about this company, and I'm hoping for some help on that.
Yes, I'll dive in and say please apply if you're on that regulatory journey. It sounds like you fit right within the eligibility criteria. But yeah, part of the process is that we will try and refer you to the experts within our network to help out your company as best we can.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to that as well, Kara. That's part of the reason why API is involved in the Life Science Investment Summit as part of that network of experts. As Christine said, we do have a team of regulatory experts. So even if you have any questions kind of pop up along the way, feel free to reach out and I can connect you with our regulatory team as well.
Okay, yeah, that would be great, because I don't know exactly what I don't know, and I know that. But I know there's a big black hole of stuff that I need to know. So, okay, awesome.
What we're here for.
I think there's an opportunity in the application itself to note where you are kind of looking for some support in terms of expertise
Okay.
for education. So you can use that too to identify.
Okay, I'll take a closer look.
Yeah, I believe Christine also has a plan for a couple of recordings and sessions on regulatory pathway. Hey, Christine?
It's in the works, but yes, that is the plan, to do some life science specific info that we hope to release to both the investors and the companies. Coming up after Life Sciences Week, which I'm just going to take a second to plug that right now.
I'm glad you did, Christine, because I was waiting till the questions were over to hopefully kind of give everyone a heads up on the call. Life Sciences Week is coming up in Alberta from September 23rd to 27th, which is also a really great way to connect with other life sciences companies. We'll have investors coming out to that. Some of our friends at TNT will be on panels speaking to some of these topics as well. I think there will be a Life Sciences Week specific TNT. So please, I'll send the link to the agenda, the program in the chat. Check out the events that are going on. If you're located in Alberta, we'll have events in Edmonton and in Calgary. If you're able to come out to Alberta, if you're not located here, it's a great week to connect with other companies, investors, and supporters of the ecosystem.
Thanks, Tessa. I think we've got a hand too. Yes.
Hi, this is Ayaz from Winnipeg. I know you guys just wrapped up Winnipeg operations, but then adding life sciences to your portfolios is really great. And just wanted to say thank you to the entire team and congratulations.
All right, Winnipeg in the house. I'm excited. Thanks, Ayaz.
I'll just say a quick note on that front. It is paused. It's not over in Manitoba. We are working with people there locally to get it back up and running. I am very optimistic we will have something, some exciting news in early 2025 with Startup TNT in Manitoba. Oh. Anything else? Anybody?
Silence, waiting for the questions. Yeah, if there's something that occurs to any of you after, feel free to reach out. I dropped my email in the chat. Yeah, or anything that you don't want to bring up here because it's way in depth, although consider somebody else probably has the same question, and I'm happy to discuss right in front of the other folks, as long as that works for you.
Well, Christine, I think if we want, we could leave it here with a few minutes left. And thanks everyone for joining. And looking forward to a full Life Sciences Summit. Applications are due when? 18th, I believe. September 18th.
13 days. 13
So
days.
yeah, get on it. You got about 2 weeks to complete them. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.